Yes, hello. Today, look, we're going to be discussing something that you guys probably been discussing yourselves within the community, at home alone, on the toilet, just in places, maybe touching your nips like I am, and, wondering, when are they going to buff Orange Piccolo? And I have the answer for you. Never. The reason for it is actually very simple. And, a lot of you might not like what I have to say, because I'm throwing the scroll of truth at you. But before you crucify me on a stick and shove it up my butt, I just want you to know that Orange Piccolo is my favorite character. So do I want him to be buffed? Absolutely. But will he be buffed? No. And the reason for it is very simple. The answer is actually on your screen right now. You look at Goku and Frieza and you will understand why. Now you might be wondering why, because you're like, they're both anti-headliners, so what's the difference? The difference here is not the units themselves or how hyped they are. No, the difference here is one is a core mechanic. One has that core mechanic, and one does not. Now, you might be wondering what this core mechanic is, and the answer to that is the unique gauge. Which one? The Goku Frieza one. Why? Simple. It blocks RRs. Yeah. Now, so you might be wondering again, but that doesn't justify it. Actually, it does. So you see, the thing about this core mechanic is that it has never before been seen. And that's actually vital because of what happened in its first week, where, well, needless to say, the core mechanic didn't work at all. Or if it did, barely. It was so bad, in fact, that it felt like you were... the mechanic itself wasn't there at all. I think that was the biggest issue with it. You never want a core mechanic to feel completely useless. The unit itself was still really good, even pre-buff. But the mechanic itself was what was not working as intended, so they decided to fix that along with some other things, which obviously made the unit even more deadly than before. And that's just something that came with the territory. Now, the reason why Orange Piccolo will never see that same level of love is simple. He has no new mechanics. None. Everything he has, we've already seen in this unit. The revival state, we've seen that in many units. His ability to just heal the teammates and not himself, we've seen that. A unique gauge that fills up once and then never again, we've seen that. Removing Dragon Balls, we've seen that. Counters, we've seen that. Blue cards that nullify endurance, we have seen that. And I think that's something to consider when we're discussing Orange Piccolo and why they will not buff him. However, with that, all of that being said, in a hypothetical universe where I am wrong, and they do buff him, I have some ideas as where to buff him, because as an Orange Piccolo nerd, I love Orange Piccolo and want him to do well. And not to say he's not doing well, but I think he could do better. So, a couple of things to fix. On the Orange Piccolo side, I think the main one to fix is his gauge itself. Let it go off multiple times. And if it's not going to go off multiple times, then in that case, he needs to remove not one Dragon Ball, but 3. I said it, and it's not even that crazy. Honestly, it's not that crazy. Anyone that disagrees, you're wrong, and I don't care. On the, pre-Orange Piccolo side, I think the best thing that you can do to fix him, realistically, is, I think 3 or 4 things. Maybe it's either 3 or 4 things. We'll go one by one and we'll figure it out very quickly, because I can't do math. The first thing is his green card. Should heal him as well. I know that may be kind of crazy to ask for, considering on regeneration, that would make him extremely dumb. However, considering he is an RR fodder unit, I don't think it's that crazy, and you'd probably still save it mainly for Kid Buu, with the exception of 1 green card going to him to get specific buffs completely activated and stuff. The second thing is his main ability. And I think the main ability actually has 2 things that I would add to it. The first one, heals himself too, not just his teammates. And then thirdly, he gets cover nullification for like 10 timer counts. That's all you gotta do, realistically, to make him a good pre-revival state unit. That's all. It doesn't take much, and I think that gimping him out of those very basic things is why people put Revival UI Goku higher than him on a lot of tier lists, especially in the Japanese side of things. Whereas on the Western side, we seem to treat Piccolo a little bit better than the Revival UI. Where do I stand on this? I love them both, so I don't really care. I use Piccolo more than I use Rev UI because of how he plays out, more so than anything else. And because of the team I'm running, right? However, one other thing we could do with the Orange Piccolo side, if you feel like just the gauge alone isn't enough, I would say buff the stats. Because I think a lot of his issues with his gauge, especially at low stars, is that his stats itself sometimes don't let you use his gauge effectively. And I think that could be a major turnoff for a lot of people. And I understand that because, you know, you want that gauge to always go off. And, you know, I've never actually had that gauge not go off, by the way. And my Piccolo is only 7 stars, so it's not like he's even that crazy. But that's pretty much all I would do. Just increase stats, increase his either Dragon Ball removal once his gauge is filled, or let his gauge go off multiple times. And that's pretty much it. So with that being said, guys, that's why Piccolo will not be getting a buff from the devs. And that's why you should just play with your tips or your nips. Have yourselves a salty day, and I'll see you in the next video. No, sir pee pee, no, sir pee pee, no, sir pee pee.